to see consumers that were never really regularly shopping online, where it's going to become now a regular part of their weekly schedule.
Darko, thanks for joining us on the next episode of The New Normal. Been really interested to have you on because you run True Altitude, which is a supply chain tech advisory service. I think obviously in the new normal, the supply chain, logistics, delivery systems are as crucial as ever. First of all, can you tell me what your old normal was and what your new normal is?
Our old normal was ironically expressing a bit of foresight into the current situation, and our whole practice investment thesis and the clients we've been working with was the auspice that retail and carriers would have to have a level of flexibility when it comes to digitizing their supply chains. And the investments that we've made in businesses like Gopher for last mile or Clevio with digital locks, clients like Nava and EasyPost have all been working with retailers over many years now to support them with effectively assisting more flexible delivery modes of transport. The new normal now, what we see, that's what we're seeing now. So what we're seeing now is people that weren't online before are now online, and as a result we've seen certainly across non-discretionary categories, again not apparel and not cosmetics, a massive shift into direct-to-consumer and online and digital commerce. It's effectively a 3 times shift online. So for any non-discretionary category, so everything outside of apparel, cosmetic as an example. So when you talk about nutraceuticals, nootropics, pharma delivery, food, obviously, etc. We've seen massive spikes across e-com channels. And what I think the new normal is, in terms of supply chain and delivery, is we're gonna see consumers that were never really regularly shopping online, where it's going to become now a regular part of their weekly schedule. And the businesses that are prepared or have prepared their online operations to be able to support more digital modes of order management and dispatch have actually been very well geared for the current scenario. Those that have been laggards are probably suffering now with 70% of their free cash flow being stuck in stores where they're under lock and key currently and can't be surfaced online. So we're seeing rapid digital transformation and demand for supply chain tech type of solutions in that environment.
Because if the direct to consumer approach wasn't a mainstream behavior before, something like this had to come about in order to force it to be a mainstream behavior.
Digital commerce has been growing at double digits in all major markets. In terms of penetration across all categories, if we looked at peak 2019 UK and US respectively, we were talking about 15% digital versus physical in the UK, probably 10% in the US. I think we're going to see that doubling or tripling in the coming months and years, very, very rapidly.
It's interesting because a lot of people I've spoken with almost weren't necessarily prepared, whereas you've been building your business on something like this happening.
I don't think anyone's anticipated COVID to have this much impact across all industries. What I will say is that our whole investment thesis and offering has been geared around digitization of industries. Whether it's mobility, software as a service, direct to consumer, or e-com. What I will say is that COVID's simply been a trigger to accelerate demand for some of our clients' solutions and service offerings more so, and simply accelerated and compressed everything and brought consumers online that weren't necessarily online before. So you think about, people's great aunts and grandmothers and whoever else is locked behind doors, my mother included. They would typically, walk around to the corner store or, the shopping mall or whatnot. And unfortunately, now that's no longer an option. They have been forced online. And often when you talk about, shifts in massive shifts in consumer behavior, what it comes down to is making that behavior a more regular and comfortable occurrence, whereby it's something that becomes more repeatable and a much more regular behavior, and that's what we're seeing now. So what we're seeing now is people that weren't online before are now online, and as a result, we've seen certainly across non-discretionary categories, again, not apparel and not cosmetics, a massive shift into direct-to-consumer and online and digital commerce.
Okay, so it's almost like a catalyst, right? So, like, you're right, no one could have expected it, but it's a positive catalyst in a way.
More like an atomic bomb. The problem is that we don't know how long the shutdown's going to go for. My concern is that the banks may not respond fast enough, and we're going to see mass failures of retailers that have not been able to bring their stock online. And, I may be torn over hot coals for saying that, but I truly believe that this will be a catalyst for a lot of retail failures. A lot of retailers that aren't digitally ready will fail.
On that point, you've got a lot of traditional retailers trying to make that shift and trying to accommodate that shift in order to stay afloat. Do you think, in your opinion, it's almost too late for that shift to happen? And what needs to happen in order to accommodate that?
It's not too late. We've been working with some of our partners on rapid response packages. The issue is how quickly are they able to move? As you can imagine, different organizational cultures, are more or less amenable to implementing very, very rapid changes. We're seeing people that are, tearing up their existing business plans and, going to full DEFCON 1, rapidly launching or ramping up their e-com and fulfillment capacities. Certainly a couple of our clients and a couple of prospects that we're talking to at the moment are very well geared to address that. We're seeing certain retailers rapidly setting up click and collect operations, even drive-through collect from store. That's a bit more compliant with the current COVID reality. So, there's definitely bright sparks out there. And then if you talk about, the pure plays, and you ask the question particularly around Amazon and Ocado, I think Ocado's in particular has made significant investments into ensuring that they can ramp up to a reality where people are buying 15-20% of their food online. I think they're bursting at the seams, and this is a consumer view. This is not that's not a corporate view. That's purely from a view of a consumer. When you have to wait several weeks for a slot, the reality is that they're absolutely slammed. And they're probably bursting at the seams in terms of capacity. In saying that, they're very well geared for this type of scenario, and that's reflected in their share price. Amazon's an interesting one. I see Amazon, and particularly Amazon delivery and Fulfill by Amazon, being a massive beneficiary of this over the next 3 to 6 months. And the reason is that their cost of capital is still far, far cheaper than a lot of other businesses. They can do things like what they did over the past few weeks. They've hired or promise of hire roughly 160,000 staff across US and Europe alone. So they're going to grow out of this. Amazon will definitely see a massive growth on the back of this.
This is really interesting, that the particular clients that you're working with. Can you go through just a few of them, talk about who they are, what they're doing, and how they're supporting the current climate?
A couple of examples. So our investees and clients, Gopher, so gopher.com, they are a UK point-to-point same-day delivery service. They're a courier, effectively, both B2B and B2C. They do a lot of pharma deliveries. They've been doing a great job ramping up their contractor base. They've seen huge spikes in volume. particularly from the retail sector, and also signing up new clients. Unsurprisingly, they've benefited from this. We've been helping them secure a couple of new clients on the back of that as well. Our clients and investees, Commerce Tree. So Commerce Tree is a stock inventory management and a product information management integration platform, particularly amenable to the mid-market. They came out of Australia, where sort of tyranny of distance has always been a problem. Low population densities, where retailers have had to use stores as dispatch points for a long time. They're seeing a spike in demand and requests, unsurprisingly, for their technology, where retailers can surface inventory for dispatch. That's been super interesting. Our clients, Anyvan, again, they are a two-man delivery service. Their e-com fulfillment capacity has been, and white glove delivery services have been well in demand, particularly from builders, merchants, and the like. They've seen a growth demand, and murmurs from some of our US clients that I've had a lot of discussions with. And if you check out our website, you'll fairly see who those are. Again, they've seen massive spikes in demand for non-discretionary consumer products. Some of their larger enterprise clients in the US have suffered a bit, and that is a reflection of the environment and simply a fact that, with store closures and so forth, and people consolidating spend, certain categories, as we've been mentioning, have contracted. But certainly in terms of some of those clients, they're all very well geared for a digital supply chain mode of dispatch and distributed inventory dispatch and order synchronization, and that's where the future is. Many retailers currently, the reality is that online and offline operations have been managed separately from a budgetary and technology perspective. I think that will no longer be the case, and for those that don't embrace that, they won't be around in about 6 to 9 months.
All right, Darko, we're now going to move on to 3 power questions. We end every single new normal episode with these 3 power questions. The point is, answer from the gut, don't dwell on it too much, and then we'll just do it back and forth. So the first is, what shifts would you like to see in society after COVID-19?
I don't think it's a matter of liking to see. I think we are seeing a fundamental shift in human behavior. I think particularly around the whole work from home mobility scenario. It's something I've been personally doing for a long time. So this is my normal. We have a fully mobile operation. That's how I've managed my business for the past 10 years, with a brief interlude in a corporate we won't talk about. So I think it's going to be a rude shock for a lot of people, going from 10% work from home up to 30, 40%. I think we're going to see a lot of mobility and software as a service solutions benefiting from this. And if you look at, share prices of cybersecurity apps, Microsoft and Google, etc., they've held steadfast, and I think that's not going to change. I'm on the board of a managed service business that enables legal firms to go online. They've seen a massive spike in demand for mobility services. I was on the phone with a very large global IT distributor the other week. They sold out of laptops a couple of weeks ago. That's not going to change. People will be working from home a lot more moving forward. And the other big impact that we've talked about is, somewhere where I've stuck my career for the last 7 years, is obviously the whole e-commerce and digital supply chain world. I think, where if you talk about a global broad stroke average of, say, 12% online versus offline sales, I think that's triple. So we will see more like a third moving forward once we reemerge on the other side. I think people that haven't been shopping online will be more prone to buy online, and that's both across B2C as well as B2B for their businesses and for their customers.
Question number 2, what will you tell future generations when it comes to the topic of COVID-19?
our perspective, and maybe I'm totally deluded, but I do see this as a catalyst for positive change. I think there's been a lot of businesses that have been overfunded that will have a bit of a crazy realization at the moment. Either they will have to turn their businesses into something that has a relevant product, or they will perish. And on the other side, I think in terms of human behaviour, perhaps younger generations will take certain things for granted anyway, given it's what they do normally. I mean, my household is 90% online. We haven't actually changed our behaviour too much anyway, but I think for a lot of households there's going to be quite a big shift.
And last question, what's keeping you going?
Number one, what we're doing is relevant. Number two, the people that I've got on the team and our partners, I mean, I can't thank them enough. I can't speak positively enough about them. There's a lot of very positive opportunities coming through that we're addressing, and I'm very fortunate in that regard to be surrounded by very enterprising and entrepreneurial individuals that are seeing this current scenario as a positive catalyst to change and something that we can be in the middle of. And the third thing is coffee. Lots and lots of coffee.
How many are you on a day at the moment?
Between 5 to 6, I'd suggest.
Well, look, Darko, thank you for your time. You kind of embody what you guys are doing, embody everything that I believe in terms of even before COVID, that business should be used as a force for good. This is an opportunity for businesses with true, authentic values, a reason for existing, who are driven to create actual solutions to problems. This is a time for them to double down on that, and they'll come out of this stronger. And that's exactly what you are doing as an organization. That's exactly what you're doing on behalf of your clients. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for yours, mate. Thanks.